You got it. Kick us off.
Well, everyone, welcome to the weekly briefing for the first briefing of 2022. And I think it summed it up. I saw a person I know who posted some meme that was like, 2022 feels like that boyfriend that's coming back around the third time and you're about to forgive them. And you're like, wait a minute, should I do this? Because it's going to feel like 2020 and 2021 all over again. But here we go. Fresh start for all.
Yeah.
This is just...
We wish it was a little fresher, but right, it is what it is.
That's right. It is what it is. Well, thanks for joining us as we kick off 2022. Weekly briefing is the place where we gather to talk about trends in the industry and updates and hot topics that are hitting our creative studios as we ratchet up the year. And today's topic is one that is really timely as we kick off the year, because most people, hopefully you guys are included, start off with some plans and some goals and really some objectives around sales and how you want your studio to grow and what you want to have happen. And so our topic today in looking at sales is really timely. So
yeah, it is that time. And it's funny how we took a lot of our clients through some goal setting exercises towards the end of the year, right? So that we could help inform the planning that we're now doing. And Jason, what was like the common theme that you saw in a lot of the goal setting and reflecting that people did towards the end of last year?
Well, I'd say I'd say there's a couple for me, but a real common one was dealing with talent and resources. That's a real challenge that a lot of studios are finding themselves in. Just how do we bring the people in that we need? And then for a couple of studios that I work with, unfortunately, we're kind of dealing with a little bit of a sales slump at the end of 2021 and looking to really need to kick things into high gear or overdrive in 2022 as they seek to not only kick things off for their year, but in a sense compensate for how underperforming, perhaps would be a word I'd use to describe some of their sales in Q4 2021.
Yeah, I was hearing a lot of the same things too. And I think despite last year being such a record year for a lot of companies, which is great, that there's still, here I've even got this diagram that I'm gonna turn off, my camera is blurry right now because of this, it's fancy little depth of field thing. But I actually drew this diagram because this sort of exemplifies what happens at the end of the year, even if you're having a great year, right? If you're consistent,
right.
Average revenue is like this, there's still this thing called, let's kind of wind things down towards the end of the year. And then when the next year begins, well, when does this happen? Does this happen early January? Does it happen? Like, projects don't really transcend that barrier of the new year. It's like a wall. And so everyone starts January kind of doing this whole, where are the projects? What's going on? And it feels like the old feast or famine cycle coming back around.
Yeah, it really does. And it's funny how much, it's maybe not funny, but it's interesting how much momentum plays into sustained performance. Because when you shut things down or wind things down for your studio at the end of the year, you've hit those goals you wanted to or not, but like as you lose momentum at the end of the year and you push it, you try to push into the next, it's a really tough thing to overcome.
Yeah. It's a common theme. I'm curious here of just people that are here present, show of hands, does anyone else feel this whole, hey, when are things going to kick back into gear, right?
Right.
It's like a common theme that a lot of the clients out there, meaning these are the people that are writing you checks if you're an owner, they're saying things like, well, we're doing a bit of calibrating, well, we're waiting to get our budgets for 2022 approved. But you're also just in this mode of like, okay, well, how long till it kicks in? So I've been taking this time to encourage owners everywhere to really start getting serious and make this the year when you develop a minimal business development effort that does not stop, no matter how busy you are or how slow you are, right? And this is of course addressing the feast or famine cycle that owners get stuck in. But I think the opportunity is, if you can take your sales method that you have and figure out what is the minimal version of it that not only you, but that your team can run consistently without fail, no matter how crazy busy you are, that a minimal sales system is way better than no sales system.
Right.
But what's your take on that?
Well, yeah, and I would say, well, almost any system is better than no system, and it really takes a leap sometimes. And I think of the seasons of the creative firm, and as you push from paint to punch and those kinds of things, the sales management or system, if you will, is no different. As you look to, how do you push past my 1 million, my 2 million in sales into 3 and 4? And it really is undergirding or making that sales system more robust to handle that.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to share my screen for a second, because I've been taking my confab group as well as a bunch of individual clients through this concept that I call sales keeping, which is a weird word. The word comes from the idea of bookkeeping. And here's what I know about bookkeeping, and I'm sure everyone here knows this, that no matter how busy you are, do you find the time to deposit checks? No matter how busy you are, do you pay your bills and pay them on time? Like, do you do this run this system and do this minimal effort to keep your books in order? And the answer is, yeah, of course we know what that is.
Of course you do.
Right? But when it comes to sales, for some reason we find it so difficult. So I'm just trying to encourage everyone, let's think of sales just like we do bookkeeping. So I'm calling it sales keeping. And here's the thing that I'll share here, is this idea, hang on, okay, of trying to get everybody from desperation to choosy. So let me just show a couple of slides here to encourage some thought and conversation, because there's this feast or famine cycle, right, that we know is going to hit us as we go through the year, because you the owner, you get really hungry, you start putting all sorts of calls out there, you start stirring things up, and I'm sure you guys are doing this right now because January is slow, and so you're doing all this push. What's going to happen is a big job is going to land, and you're going to be like, yes, and you'll tell yourself a lie. You'll tell yourself, finally, we've arrived, we've succeeded, right? We got the job. And then you retreat into this mode of what I call binary thinking, where we're good. I just got to focus on this job. This is really important. And then you see what's coming, of course, on my little graph here, right? There's this that's coming, and just know it's coming. It always does. And here's what happens, right? Over the year, your average revenue is going to look a lot lower because you do this, cyclical thing. And here's the peaks and the valleys. At the peaks, you have this, we don't have enough talent crisis that's always hitting you. And Jason.
Yeah, that's the top of the hour mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other crisis you get into is we don't have enough cash, enough work, enough opportunity. So think about, what would it take to just flatten this curve? Because if we get this average revenue, guess what? We can afford the resources we need, like talent, like freelancers, like whatever. And of course, we're going to have more money that creates margin. So here's my other little example here, because I like to say this. I want to see everyone get to a place where your capacity is not constantly greater than your opportunities, but vice versa. Because when your opportunities are less than your capacity, there's this delta here, this difference. Jason, what would you, if you're going to give this a name, what would you call that difference right there?
Panic mode?
Right. I call it desperation, right?
The 3 a.m. call, the 3 a.m. wake up.
Yeah. Because this desperation right here, it does produce what? Anxiety, because when we get slow, we're like, we better get out there and start selling. But other things happen because we become reactive. We also might fall prey to guerrilla clients. These are the big clients that push us around because they know we need the cash. We make compromises because we'll take on a job that really isn't a great fit because, again, we need the money. And this leads to dissatisfaction and even burnout, because if you do this for a decade, I can promise you, you wake up one day and you go, this ain't worth it. So here's our goal. We're going to just find a system that just makes opportunities a little bigger than our capacity. So what would you call this gap here, Jason?
I'd call that breathing easy.
Yeah, I like to call it the ability to be choosy. And I know it's easy to think, oh, this is like more profitable. And I'm like, yeah, of course, there's more money, there's more profit, but there's actually a bunch of great side effects, benefits. Because guess what? You get to say no to bad fits and yes to better fits.
Right.
Like it's always better to have like two jobs. And if you're turning down one, you're saying yes to the other because it's the better opportunity, the better fit. I will tell you this, and you've seen this, Jason. Have you noticed how when you start to be choosy, margins just get better? It's not even intentional, it just happens.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because as you get choosy, and I've seen several studios kind of go through this iteration, like the work elevates itself. That old client that you take their job because they're a check instead of the job you want or the client you want. Like when those kinds of relationships melt away and you don't have them anymore, you're really focused on more impactful work and projects that are really more in line with the season that your studio is striving to be into. And you're kind of living in a way, leveling up the projects and living in that season of growth.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's well said. So I'll list off a couple more, like what I call strategic byproducts. So innovation is one, right? Because you suddenly say things like, maybe we can't afford to do this shoot on location, or we can afford that director we've always wanted to, bring in, or we have the time, right, to iterate and do more renders, whatever the thing is.
Right.
That's a form of risk taking. And guess what? All profit is derived from risk, as Peter Drucker taught us. So your ability to take risks is really what separates you from other companies, because that's where you're going to do things that are great and interesting.
Right.
Now, focus is another nice one, because guess what? You as the owner, you're not panicking every 4, 6, 8 weeks trying to go get the next job because of that flattened curve. And that creates overall, these things all create more satisfaction. And ultimately, as we like to say here at RevThink, this is how we create the future.
Right.
So that's it. That's all we got to do, Jason. No problem, right?
I can do it in my sleep, Joel.
Right. Well, here's my I shared this quote because I stumbled across this and it's been bothering me ever since. For the past month, I can't stop thinking about how much I hate and love this quote from J.J. Watt, the pro football player. And he says, success isn't owned, it's leased, and rent is due every day.
Super powerful.
Isn't that maddening, but also so true at the same time? And that's like a great, intro to this idea of where this word comes from. Like saleskeeping, the big idea is systematizing the most basic business development effort so that you and your staff can keep some minimal leaven going, even in busy production times, So that's why I said, well, hey, what if maintaining sales was just like bookkeeping? So that's what we're going to be teaching a lot of people this year, because I'm like, if not this year, then when are we going to solve this? When are we going to figure this out? So what are your thoughts, Jason? Are you pushing some of your clients to mature those minimal systems and how they run them, or providing a certain level of accountability? Like what are the things that you see that are working?
Well, so a couple of things. Definitely looking at, particularly, I know I mentioned that I work with a couple of different clients that have had their eye on a different ball, so to speak, and the sales efforts were really pretty challenged towards the end of the year, and lots of things or reasons for it. But the thing that I think is so key, and it's just like any other New Year's resolution or what have you, is small action every day starts to create results, and those results become addictive. So it's the studio that is so disorganized, perhaps, or so focused on the gorilla client or the project that's imploding, and the owner is, or the owner doesn't have a salesperson, any one of those things. Those are the distractions. And I get those legitimate excuses, but they are excuses nonetheless for not maintaining the routines around sales. And like I said, the momentum principle there is so key, because small actions every day start to create those results.
Wow. I'm actually looking at this great comment from Ryan. Hey, Ryan, if you can jump in, I'd love to pick your brain on this, because you said the sine wave of scared versus slammed. That's a new one.
Yes, I love it. Sine wave. Yeah.
I don't know if he's on camera or on speaker with us here. Oh, it looks like he may have stepped away. I think he turned off his camera. Someone else I was going to pick on, Ed from Spilt. Ed, can you jump in? Can I spotlight you? There you go.
Hey,
so,
Ed.
dude, I know. I'm preaching to the choir, but because we talked about this a lot yesterday in Confab, I'm just kind of curious to get an owner who's living this right now perspective. What's the, are we beating a familiar drum?
I mean, I've done it for years and years, where it was feast and famine, and sales was never a priority unless we needed it,
Yeah.
and that was a huge goal last year. I mean, I spent a solid amount of time, outside of work hours, during work hours, just putting that system in place to at least retain those top clients and keep them coming back, because we like working with them anyway. And then also trying to like get new sales and do that kind of thing. But I feel like it's anything you do. Like I do a lot of biking, and if I slow down, it's hard to get back into it. But if I keep going, just the minimal effort, then it's easy to keep going and keep doing it. It's about creating that habit.
And that is, I guess that's a whole like lesson on just habit building, right? Especially since all of us start off a new year saying, okay, it's time to put a new habit into play. So I'm going to ask you a question I asked you yesterday. So pardon me if I'm repeating myself. For owners that are, say, just now deciding, like you did a year or two ago, got to fix this problem. This what was the sine wave? Scared to versus slammed. I've got to escape this. Is there any kind of an easy button, or is there just an obvious take this first step, like at a minimum, do this one thing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like that one thing is, I mean, I hired someone to do like 3 different roles at the same time, but whether part-time or not, like have someone in charge of maintaining your relationships with your top, whatever you want to say, like 5, 10, 20 clients. When I did the analysis with you, it was like, where's our money coming from? Where's our best projects coming from? And it was easy to see, like, all right, the worst projects, let's get rid of those clients. The best projects, the best clients, let's keep them. And always try to have a project with them, but I don't have the time to do that. So that's like someone's, about like a quarter of their responsibility is maintaining that.
But I do like what you just suggested there, and that was there's a person who owns that thing. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah. That's one of their like key accountability things.
So Ed, I'm curious, my gut tells me, because I remember going through that exercise of, right, looking at where does all the revenue come from and doing some basic analysis. And there's all kinds of 80-20 rules that come into play, right? My sense is, without looking at any of your numbers, is that just getting serious about having what I call like a top 20 list, where in your sales pipeline at any one time, all 20 of those people are somewhere in that pipeline, even if it's on the far left called, we need to follow up with this person. I would think just doing that would also be a good baseline. Like, just get serious about staying in touch with your top 20. Like, don't even worry about new business. Get to that later, because that so much of that flattening that curve is just staying on top of the people who already love you and already hire you on a regular basis. Or
Sure,
should.
I think it's the classic thing, like, but reversed for us as owners. Like, if we're looking for, we're too busy, we need freelance or contract help, we instantly go to the people that we just worked with because we just worked with them. You don't take the time to go through your list of 200 people and hunt down that right person. So like keeping in front of their mind is the easy solution for them because they already like working with you.
Right. And we get stuck when sometimes those clients say, oh, I don't have anything for you yet. And we move on. And then we really should still be in touch routinely, because it may be a month or two later that we're ready. And if we're top of mind, then that opportunity is going to happen.
And it's easy to be like an article, a piece of work that you like, it could be a show you saw that's not even your work, but you just know because you've worked with them that they're into something, they might like it. There's lots of reasons to reach out outside of saying, what work do you have for me? Which they also get and know that you're asking what work you have too.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Well, I appreciate you jumping in and sharing. And you have any other thoughts about just some of the habits you think that are going to benefit some of your peers this year as they're trying to escape this crazy cycle?
I just love Jason's idea of like just little bits at a time, like it's like almost everything in your business is so overwhelming to just dive in and like, I'm going to get this done today or that, but like identify your top things you need work on and put a little bit of effort into them each day or every other day. And that's how you like start to make big strides, because again, it becomes habit,
Yeah.
And then eventually it's done, or it's done for now, either way, but you've accomplished something then.
Well, I will say this in that spirit with a lot of my clients I'm working with directly. One thing I'm doing is just putting events on their calendars in advance. Like, here's the biweekly sales keeping meeting. Here's the Friday, the hour every Friday, you're going to open up the pipeline and just nurture those deals. And if it's on the calendar, it's amazing how it's protected. It doesn't just get run over by everything else. Now people have to schedule around it, right? So Jason, what are you hearing that Ed said that resonated with you? That
when he was talking about that small things, little day, or every day, it just reminded me of what he said around like bicycling. You just have to get out there and do it. The other element would be there has to be some, I'd call it rigor around what your sales efforts are going to be. And my question for the group would be, how many of you guys have identified what your sales targets are for 2022? Because everybody should have something lined out that says, hey, I'm going to do X amount of million in sales this year. Has everyone done that?
Yeah. And Ed, I'm betting, I think you and Tim did the bingo card exercise. Did I hear
That's
about
where
that?
I was going to go with this. It is moving beyond, hey, what's our goal? So looking at how we did last year, what are we going to leverage that happened last year, clients and projects, into 2022, meaning what kind of repeat business is there? And then really what's the gap? Because that starts to identify, all what kind of effort do I need to put forth here? If it's a small gap, well, shoot, then going through, and the other thing is, I love using the beginning of the year to, when your studio can handle it, like, which clients are you going to fire? Like, who are you going to let go of? Who calls you and says, like, okay, I don't want to talk to that guy. What client is that? And how do we get rid of them? Because you have them, right? Who doesn't?
That's that ability.
I don't.
Choosy. So Ed, you gonna name names who you're firing this year?
No, you don't have to name names.
No, I could not name names. I mean, one would be like a dream client for a lot of people. We've had them for years, but we've done it on two times. It was like, one was just we're too busy. Another one was, was a price out, but it was important because it was always a fun job that always lost money.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah.
And did you know that in hindsight after doing some analysis, or did you know when you signed up for it? Here we go again.
Well, every year we knew we lost money on it, but it was a super fun job. But then it stopped becoming fun for the staff too. It was more like, we're doing this again, So when that, it's one thing if it's like, oh, we're going to lose a little bit of money and everyone's going to have a great time being creative. But
right.
When that box wasn't checked anymore, it was like, yeah, this year's the perfect year to not, to sever that tie and still do other stuff with them, but just maybe not that one thing.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, there's a real power in what Ed's saying, because often when you have those opportunities come at you, Ed, you have this choice called, well, we can take this on and grow a little bit, or maybe we stay the same size and just say no.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's much more satisfying, because it's like, I'd much rather have 10 great clients than 20 mediocre ones and a larger company. Like, that's just a recipe for unhappiness.
Yeah.
All right, well, we should wrap it up. We got 2 minutes left. Ed, you're awesome. Everyone here, please give Ed a shout out. And by the way, I love the new logo I'm seeing here on the on your little avatar. So
nice.
Everybody go see their new website and their new positioning. It's totally badass. And from all I can tell, it's working, right, Ed?
It is working wonderfully.
Beautiful. All right, I'm going to let Ed go. And Jason, I was going to mention to everyone here, first of all, thanks for being here for the briefing. We try and keep it to 30 minutes. For those of you that are plugged into our community, I just wanted to point out, we have this great new feature that's finally up and running now. So inside the community, look over here on the left, events. Yeah. So now there's just like one-stop shop where you can go in and see the events that are coming up. So we'll be listing upcoming briefings, master classes. My confab group will be in here. So this is a benefit. And we're also streamlining some of the groups, making things just simpler and easier to find things. So please take advantage of that. There's a killer thread going on right now about business valuations. And like, if somebody wants to buy your studio, how does that work? From Garris up at By the Booth in Toronto. So if you haven't jumped into that thread, you might want to read that one. I'm finding the conversation very interesting. All right, Jason. Well, man, sorry your coffee shop was closed. Are you going to go get caffeinated elsewhere?
I'll go figure it out. No problem. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here. We'll see you in the community. Unless otherwise, we'll see you next week for next week's briefing. And maybe we'll talk about the sales bingo card, Jason.
Yeah, we should.
That would be fun. Okay. That's our tentative topic for next week. All right. See you everyone. Make it a great week.
Thanks.